All right, it's time for another countdown to classic call, and again, more news. It's raining news. It's not raining men, it's raining news about World of Warcraft Classic, and we couldn't be happier about that. And I want to welcome back two returnees. Jamie, it's been too long. How are you?
I'm good. Happy to be back on the show.
So good to have you again, and it wouldn't be a countdown to classic call unless we had a little bit more of an Australian flavour. Zanzibar, welcome back, mate.
Good to be here.
Good to have you, mate. Now, you two are here to talk about the little tidbit of information that we got in the World of Warcraft question and answer session with Ian Hazakostas and Josh Allen. Is it Josh Allen? Law, either way, the other day. And they, I think it was at the end of the session, they very, very quickly touched on a classic question. And they mentioned, hey, by the way, guys, RP servers are going to be a thing in Classic. Unfortunately, no RP PvP servers in Classic, at least at the start. We'll assess things as we go along. Now, this might seem like a very innocuous piece of information to the vast majority of people playing World of Warcraft Classic. It's a relatively niche community that does the role-playing thing. But it's obviously still a quite decent percentage of players. I think that there are polls out there that have shown that about 9% of people, and again, I know polls are hard to gauge, but there was a poll on the Reddit a long time ago that got about 20,000 votes, and about 9% of people said they planned on playing on an RP PvP server. So there was a lot of backlash to this news and a lot of devastation from the RP community. And Zanzibar, you're here because you're very much so part of that RP community. You've been on the show talking about RP before. Tell me how you felt when you saw this news.
A little bit disappointed, but I'm not incredibly surprised. Just because, like you said, it is a bit of a niche. I don't know how to pronounce that word. But Ian Hazakostas said the same thing, that they're definitely planning on having RP, and I don't think they would have ever even considered launching the game without some form of RP. But he said RP PvP is a bit too much of a niche. I don't think I necessarily agree with that, but it is definitely not as prevalent as playing PvE or normal PvP.
Now, it's funny because I don't really know what the split would be. But, I guess when people think of RP servers, they generally think, if you're not involved in the community, you might just default to this answer. You'd probably think, I know I would say this, RP players probably prefer PvE over PvP. However, the backlash to this news, some of the comments are saying that no, PvP is where a lot of the fun of RP comes from. You get to engage your enemy on the battlefield and sort of, have a bit of fun with the creativity, the creative side behind that. So Jamie, I'll ask you, tell me what your knowledge is of, where people's allegiances lie if they're an RPer in terms of PvE versus PvP, and also what your take on the news was.
I guess it just depends who you ask then, because I think we had some people in the Discord saying, and on the forums and stuff, that when you think of RP on WoW, that it really should be PvP because it's an MMO. So there are just naturally other people in the game that, you don't just roleplay with them, you also play against them, especially since it's divided into factions. So, I think to me, it just makes more sense to, fight against the people that you're seeing in the game, whether they're a player or an enemy or an NPC, whatever. So, but I've also almost exclusively played on RP PvP servers. So I might be biased just because of my own experience in that.
Well, knowing that you've done the majority of your time in game, on an RP PvP server, were you devastated to hear this?
Oh no. I actually wasn't surprised at all. So as much as I loved my experience on the RP PvP server, I played on several of them actually. It was Ravenhold, Twisting Nether, and Emerald Dream for a minute. They were really great, back in Wrath when I started. But as the game went along and it kind of I don't know if they lost subscribers or people were just changing realms or something, but we had a big population problem. It got to the point where you wouldn't see people in the main cities even. Last time I logged in, I took a big break from like Mist to BFA, but I logged in recently and there was like no one in Stormwind. And this is after they had already combined 2 of the RP PvP servers, into connected realms and stuff. So it's a really bad problem. So, I think they're just kind of foreseeing the same thing happening in Classic that happened in retail, that there's just not going to be enough people to justify its own server.
Zainzabar, I'll turn back to you because it sounds like the two of you were not shocked by this news, and you sound like, you're saying it was kind of expected and it probably makes the most sense from Blizzard's perspective. However, it does seem like a lot of the people, at least on the Classic WoW subreddit, really were taken by surprise and felt blindsided by this news because they just locked it in that this was going to be and going to be an option. And to be honest with you, I had locked it in as well. I just thought, well, server-wise, they're going to give us a bit of everything. Why would they not? And I guess we tend to forget. We get caught up in the hype of Classic and, it's going to be huge. Classic's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. They'll give us all these servers and it'll be amazing. But Blizzard also, I guess, somewhat has to live in reality and temper expectations somewhat. And that's why they've said, look, maybe later down the track you'll get it, but at the start, no. So what I'm going to ask you is, why do you think, I guess it's hard to put yourself in other people's minds, but why do you think these people were blindsided by it? And do you think they were right to just presume that this was coming?
I think it was just simply that they were taking their experiences from retail and just applying it to the classic landscape without even thinking about what Blizzard would be, approaching from a business perspective. But I'm actually, to be honest, I'm more surprised at the surprise because when we heard loot trading was announced, everyone was, incredibly surprised. I mean, I admit I was too, because it is something, a feature that we didn't expect to see in Classic. But, people, with all this stuff that's led up to this, I don't see why people are surprised that, it's not Classic 100%. And actually, I think RP PvP servers weren't in at launch anyway. I'm pretty sure they were in at 1.5 or 1.6 they were added.
Sorry, I double checked. It was 1.7 that Emerald Dream was added. I'm pretty sure that was the first one.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So 1.7. So the game did launch with RP servers, I believe. I did try to double check that. But yeah, so basically that's all I can really guess. I've sort of taken my feet out of the RP community in the break. I haven't been keeping up with any of my old contacts, so I don't really have my ear to the ground in the RP community anymore, unfortunately. I'm just drawing from experience. Yeah, that's really all I can think of. People just think Classic was going to launch the same as retail.
It's something that I've noticed with a lot of these news items, that people will react based on their own personal experiences and not consider the fact that like not all servers acted the same way or like turned out the same way. So, I mean, I kind of implicitly expected them to have RP PvP servers. Like it wasn't even a question in my mind until they announced that they weren't going to be there. But like within a second, I was not surprised just because of my own experience with it. So, but if I had heard, or if I had dropped out of the game sooner than I did, I would have been like, I guess in that same community that you're talking about where, I'd be mad about it or whatever, just because like I didn't have that bad experience of like what it's like to be on a dead realm. So I think it's kind of a lack of, maybe not empathy, but just understanding that not everyone had the great experience that you do, and that there are, other people who, or I guess like other situations that you're not accounting for, if that makes sense.
So in saying that, can you still sympathize with the people who are pouring their hearts out on the forums saying this has sort of really, really broken their dreams for Classic?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that they should do that too. I heard that there was a petition going around about, having them add them later or whatever, because they did say in the water cooler that, they would be open to adding them eventually if it was appropriate. So like Blizz is listening, like obviously from the other blue posts that are coming out, they are reading forum posts and stuff. So anyone who feels strongly about this should definitely like raise their hand and say so in like a public way, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I actually, to be honest, given the changes that they've made so far to the other things they've announced, I wouldn't be surprised, again, if this was changed before launch, even if they said, we were originally going to launch with 6 RP servers, we'll now launch with 5 and 1 RP PvP.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, well, that was the next point, definitely, because this news came the day before we got this huge news about the changes to loot trading. So Blizzard has seen our feedback on the loot trading issue. They've sort of, digested it and they've thought on it and they've said, all right, you know what? We'll go with you all. We'll change it up and only do loot trading in raids because that seems to be the best middle ground. Seeing that come the day after this RP news, Jamie, I'll start with you. Would you have some kind of hope that again we'll get Blizzard doing the "we heard you and here we've changed our stance, so there's your one RP PvP server"?
Oh yeah, and it's something that I'm kind of chewing over the idea of raising my hand too, just because eventually it kind of turned into a situation where there weren't enough people and it was a dead realm, blah blah blah. But it started off really well. Out of all my time on WoW, I enjoyed when the RP community and Ravenholt and Twisting Nether, when I would actually see what was going on, kind of in the background, when you had the full on RP PvP element going before, everyone just basically left to either quit the game or go to another server because it was dead. So it's just a really good experience to be in one. If I had to choose a type of server, that's the one I would choose. So, I understand that they are trying to do what's best for the game, but I don't know. I think it's worth speaking out for it.
Zanzibar, would you be, as you said, not only recommending people voice their opinions if they're unhappy, but would you be anticipating that were people to voice their displeasure with this, that this is something that Blizzard might reconsider, or do you think it's locked in?
No, I definitely think Blizzard would be open to reconsidering it. And I sincerely hope they include at least one or two RP PvP realms, because you do get a different feel out of the RP PvP than you do out of regular RP. And in my limited experience, I should say as well, because my predominant experience comes from RP, but I did play on Emerald Dream for a bit as well. But there's also actually, I was going to ask you, Jamie, did you do any RP when you played on RP PvP, or did you just sort of watch from the background?
I just watched, sorry, I would pass by roleplay every once in a while. It was mostly when I was working on achievements and stuff. So they would be in the old deserted cities that people don't really go to for any practical reason other than to roleplay. So, but seeing that is just it really adds to the immersion of the game, which is something that even if you were to play a PvE or a PvP realm, people talk about immersion all the time in WoW. So it's just built-in immersion from other players that you wouldn't get on another realm. So I think it's a really cool element.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great point. And that's why it was something else I wanted to point out is a lot of the people on RP realms, and people don't really know this, they don't actually RP. It's probably, I don't know the numbers, but probably 40% of people on RP realms don't RP at all, and they just enjoy being immersed in that atmosphere. So it's sort of like a supporting ensemble, if you'd like. So I think some people would want to have that immersion of the RP and have the immersion of PvP and combine that together, and have the RP PvP all in one. So I would be surprised if, maybe not surprised, but I would be very disappointed if Blizzard decided not to change their mind and not launch with RP PvP.
Now, Zanzibar, you mentioned to me in PMs, I'm not sure if you've already raised them, but you said there were a couple of sort of ancillary issues that came up out of this news. Have you touched on them yet, or is there something more you want to raise?
No, I haven't. There was something that you raised, which was just that Ian Hazacosta said it might come out later. That was one thing. The other thing was he said, I don't remember if it was in that call, show or the other one, that Jamie linked to me, but, he did say that they weren't going to release RP servers outside of the large realms. That is the current situation in retail. The only RP servers on the US, the US client or servers, I don't know the terminology, the only ones that are actually on the North American servers. So in that same battle group thing, I apologize for butchering this.
That's all right.
Oceanic doesn't have any RP realms. Latin America might have one, but I don't think they have any either. And then whatever the other one is, because there's 4 tabs, that doesn't have any RP realms either. So there's not that many, only a handful, that all on North America. So it's annoying, it's disappointing, again, not surprising. So any Australians or Latin Americans who want to RP will have to A, speak English, and B, be on North American servers.
Well, just to finalize with you, Zanzibar, I can't remember if you said in the last call, because I've been thinking about in the last couple of days since we got this news what your plans were, because obviously you're an Aussie, but you do have a background in role playing as well. And I wasn't sure if you were actually planning on rolling on an RP server for Classic. Are you?
I am, but not that. That'll be like my secondary project character. My main character I'm going to be playing on, probably Oceanic. If you end up on Oceanic servers, I know you've been tossing and turning. I'll probably end up in playing with you on your guild. But I will definitely have at least one, maybe as many as 4 characters on an RP server. And if RP PvP becomes an option, I might even roll a couple on RP PvP as well.
Now, Jamie, finally with you, how does this news affect you and your plans for Classic? Because I think, again, I'm presuming, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you were planning on playing with us Countdown listeners on a Countdown guild, but obviously that wasn't going to be on an RP server, but you might have been rolling an alt or something on an RP server. So what does this change things up for you?
Oh, I've never role played in games, so I would never make a character just on a pure RP realm. I also just wanted to make a quick point for people that are into PvP exclusively and that are not interested in roleplay, kind of like where I am, that just the atmosphere of PvP, like world PvP in particular, on those type of realms, the RP PvP ones, are way different than what you would get on a normal PvP server. People are a lot more I guess you'd call them mature, respectful, whatever. I think that's kind of like what influenced my view on like fair fights and like not ganking people and, you know, not like 5v1ing people or whatever, is just because I always played on realms where people kind of went by those rules just because, I don't know if it's because they're in a roleplay community or whatever, but I always enjoyed those world PvP experiences more on those realms just because people were not assholes. So something to consider.
Really good point to raise. And sorry, I always do this on the show. Obviously, I'm about to end a call and then something comes up that grabs my interest. And so we'll just touch on this before we go, because I got a lot of feedback about something that I said on the show in the more recent episode when I talked about my view on etiquette in world PvP, saying that, you know, maybe I was the fool for having all these silly rules that I've made up in my head about playing with honor and I won't attack anyone that's low on health or engage with the mob. And, you know, yeah, I'm reassessing my situation. And thank you to everyone that wrote to me about that. I had people on both sides of the argument saying, you know, do it our way or do it this way. But anyway, it's all a bit of fun. But from the RP perspective, this was something that came up because if you're on an RP PvP server, is there a kind of, again, there's no rules, you know, all's fair in love and Warcraft, but is there some kind of guideline? Because RP servers tend to be pretty strict about their rules in terms of role playing. So in world PvP, is there a set of rules that you like, I will, you know, you say something before you're about to charge into battle, like force Stormwind or something like that? Or is it just the fucking gank fest that every other server is?
Oh my god, that's funny. No, I mean, like, world PvP is not any different on either one, other than the fact that, like, people won't teabag your body when you die. Like, no, seriously, it's like, it's just something that, like, the way that they engage you, they don't like slash walk up to you or anything and, like, you know, ask you to duel if they're on the other side or anything, but, like, I don't know.
Can I engage you on the field of battle?
Pistols at dawn.
Yeah. I did not see that much roleplay in the time that I played. It was mostly just like in a few isolated sorry, my phone's ringing.
That's all right.
Instances. But, like you said earlier, Zanzibar, something about like 40% don't. I would say it's more like 80% don't, at least on the ones that I rolled on, but you know, maybe it's just because I wasn't seeking it out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, most of the RP I did was because I was looking for RP. And there are times, you know, when you just want to turn it off and you just want to go about, you know, farming for whatever the hell you do on retail these days. But yeah, I think it's just when you PvP on RP PvP, if you're an RPer, I think you just sort of, this was my experience at least, you just sort of think about how would your character do this. So I think Jamie's definitely right in that people are more mature in the way they approach it. And that's just something that's across the board on RP servers. There's less trolling. It's just that when people do troll, it's more disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, good to know a bit more about what goes on the RP PvP servers. Thanks so much for addressing this issue, you two. As I said, not a huge piece of news, but a little bit of an opportunity to dive a bit more into the minds of the RPers and sort of more the RP PvPers. But thanks so much again for coming on, guys, and answering the call. Zanzibar, always a pleasure, mate.
Oh, thank you. I love being here, really. Always, call me when you need me.
Absolutely, mate. And Jamie, absolutely love you. Thank you so much for coming on again. It's been great to hear from you.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be on the show again.
All right. We'll talk to you later, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.